Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. Nearly 4,000 people start a High Court action against those they claim are polluting the River Wye.
So we have businesses who rely on the river, such as kayaking businesses who have suffered a decline in their revenues because people don't want to kayak as often anymore. We also have property owners who've suffered a reduction in the value of their homes due to the pollution. Wild swimmers, it's a really wide range of people across the catchment and wider who've been impacted.
We'll have more on that a little later. First today, we continue this week's look at rural crime. In Scotland, the insurers NFU Mutual report a sudden spike in thefts of quad bikes and all-terrain vehicles, or ATVs. Data they released in September this year shows the value of quad bike thefts in Scotland has risen 90% compared with 2024. Losses are estimated at nearly £200,000 up to September, compared to $102,000 for the whole of last year. Hannah Binns is a rural affairs specialist at NFU Mutual.
We know that gangs tend to move around and they often target different areas. We also know that criminals often return to places where they've previously visited and steal replacement bikes, so that could be factored in. But the very fact that it has gone up by, almost double is extremely concerning, especially for farmers in those areas.
And which areas are we talking about then?
So we're seeing Dumfries and Galloways hit very hard, as well as the borders. But as we know, thieves are known to move far and wide to scope out and steal these valuable, highly desired vehicles.
And would you say, can you tell, is this organised crime? Is it coordinated?
So in recent years, rural crime has become much more organised, with gangs targeting certain areas. Often they'll hit an area really hard first, and then they'll move on across borders and hope that, police don't talk to each other. And it is a huge concern for farmers, especially when these kits are so vital, especially as we're getting into the winter months and, fields are a bit trickier to navigate, if they get a bit muddy. So the loss of these vehicles can be really a hindrance to important farm work.
Are these criminal gangs using drones to scope out properties, or are they driving past? How are they finding out? Because a lot of these farms can be quite remote, can't they, in Scotland?
Yeah, farms are incredibly remote. So thieves are probably using a range of measures to scope out the farms. Now, whether that's, physically visiting the farms at night, driving past. We've heard some farmers, talk about, are thieves using footpaths to kind of walk past farms and look over fences, that kind of thing, and as well as modern technology such as drones. So there could be a range of measures that thieves are using.
What should farmers be doing with this sort of property to make sure it's safe?
There's not one solution to quad bike theft. We'd always urge farmers, to remove keys when not in use. It can stop them from being stolen and, park them securely out of sight, and any physical deterrents that you can do to make them less attractive to thieves. Thieves hate to be seen or heard, so, anything you can do to alert them to your presence, alarms, sound systems, CCTV, lighting at night, all of these really work. And also tracking devices and immobilisers. Now, these can ping alerts to people's phones. They're highly recommended and really effective.
Hannah Binns, Rural Affairs Specialist at NFU Mutual. Now, here on Farming Today, we often report on conservation projects and how they're most effective when covering larger landscapes, joining up habitats for wildlife. When King Charles was crowned, a pledge was made to create 25 new or larger national nature reserves within 5 years. The King series, as they're known, are meant to move beyond simple conservation, be bigger, more connected, and with nature recovery as their primary purpose. Now halfway through, the 12th such reserve has just opened. This one is a significant extension of a reserve in the Yorkshire Dales that contains 1/3 of Britain's flowers and ferns in one biological hotspot. Sarah Falkingham joined conservationists at Ribblehead Viaduct.
Hello everyone, welcome to Wild Ingleborough. This is Galba Pasture, part of the new National Nature Reserve at Ingleborough, which has gone into the King series.
My name is Tony Juniper and I am the chairman at Natural England. This, for me, is one of the most breathtakingly beautiful landscapes in England. To one side, we've got the Hill of Pen-y-Ghent, one of the famous three peaks, and on the other side, we can see another one in the form of Ingleborough. And this place is shaped by this dramatic, unique limestone geology, which gives this wonderful place its character. And that limestone geology is also the reason why we have this incredible biodiversity, this amazing range of wildlife species, including species that are found nowhere else on planet Earth. There are plants here which are endemic to this part of England. And so this is an incredibly important place, as well as being an incredibly beautiful place. And what we're doing today is extending the protected area. The National Nature Reserve is all about nature. So this is the gold standard, as it were, for driving forward our national ambitions for recovering the natural world.
Okay, so we're just going to head up through the limestone pavement to talk about the engagement and the conservation grazing.
How the moorland is grazed has changed dramatically over 20 years. Cattle were bought in with European money 23 years ago, and Bill Grayson, a conservation grazier, took on native breeds. In that first year when you took on these native breeds, what difference did you see in the landscape?
We saw tremendous change. We saw flowers appearing in places where they hadn't been seen for years. The bird's eye primrose, a tiny pink flower, began to spread across some of these areas in a way that nobody had ever seen before.
And why is that?
It's because the grazing that the sheep provided tended to remove the flowers before anybody could actually see them. Sheep can be much more selective. They're smaller animals, they have smaller mouths. Cattle, on the other hand, broader mouths. They can't just pick off individual things. Ruminant livestock are key drivers of ecosystem dynamics and just the kind of nature recovery process that the government has established the targets for.
Okay, so we're just going to plant some bloody cranesbill here.
Which will look like what when it's flourishing?
Oh, it's got a beautiful purple flower and then has sort of these reddy leaves at the end of the season.
Yeah, the field we're standing in right now had cattle grazing for the first time this year. And we can already see some of the benefits as we look around. There's flowers that wouldn't have been here a year ago that are sort of springing up in some of the limestone grikes here. And so some of those benefits come back almost immediately. I'm Dominic Spracklin at the University of Leeds. I'm an environmental scientist monitoring nature recovery on the Ingleborough NNR.
And when you've monitored, as you have been doing for years, what does the monitoring results show you over the last 20 years of what happens if you do reduce sheep and introduce cattle?
Yeah, so we found where farmers have been able to reduce sheep numbers a little bit and introduce cattle grazing, we've seen really big benefits for the limestone grasslands, so more species of limestone plants, but also really phenomenal benefits for butterflies. So in some areas that are lightly grazed with cattle, we see 5 times the number of butterflies, so the actual number of butterflies flying around is 5 times greater in those cattle grazed areas, and twice the diversity of species of butterflies. It can be absolutely swarming with butterflies on these limestone grasslands, and that's just amazing to see.
It must be Dominic Spracklin there from the University of Leeds, ending that report by Sarah Falkingham. What's been described as the biggest legal claim ever brought in the UK over environmental pollution has been filed at the High Court. Almost 4,000 people have signed up to a class action lawsuit against major poultry producers and a water company over allegations of extensive and widespread pollution in the rivers Wye, Lugg and Usk. They argue that the state of the rivers in recent years has severely affected local businesses, property values and people's enjoyment of the area, and they're seeking substantial damages. The companies being sued, Avara Foods Limited, Freemans of Newent Limited and Welsh Water, all deny the claims. BBC Wales environment correspondent Stefan Messenger has been following the case.
Yes, so people may have heard a lot about pollution in the Wye. It's become a focal point of more widespread concerns about the state of the UK's rivers. It flows from mid-Wales along the border with England to the Severn Estuary. Stunning views, protected too for rare wildlife, otters, freshwater pearl mussels, Atlantic salmon and so on. But locals have been raising the alarm in recent years, claiming the river's getting murkier, slimier. There's been the growth of algal blooms, starving the water of oxygen. which then leads to fewer fish and less wildlife. And they allege that large-scale chicken farming and poultry production is one factor. Around 23 million chickens are raised in the Wye catchment, a quarter of the UK's production. The worry is that excess nutrients from chicken manure is getting into the river, as well as sewage, of course. So now a number of local people, almost 4,000 in fact, have joined forces to bring a class action lawsuit against two big poultry producers and the local water company, Welsh Water. It covers pollution in the River Wye, but also one of its tributaries, the River Lug, and the River Usk, another famous Welsh river, which rises in the Banau Brycheiniog National Park, the Brecon Beacons, and flows then down to Newport and the Bristol Channel.
What do we know about the claimants in this case, and what are they seeking from going to court?
Well, we're told they all live or work alongside the rivers or use them regularly for leisure activities, swimming, kayaking and so on. The fact that nearly 4,000 have signed up makes this the largest case of its kind relating to environmental pollution ever brought in the UK, according to the solicitors behind it, a company called Lee Day. Here's Benji Gorgie from the law firm.
So we have businesses who rely on the river, such as kayaking businesses who have suffered a decline in their revenues because people don't want to kayak as often anymore. We also have property owners who've suffered a reduction in the value of their homes due to the pollution. Dog walkers who don't want to take their dogs for walks because their dogs have got sick often. Wild swimmers. It's a really wide range of people across the catchment and wider who've been impacted. We will request that the court orders the defendants to clean up the alleged pollution. Secondly, our clients are also seeking compensation.
The companies being sued are accused of negligence, causing private and public nuisance and even trespass where the riverbed has been affected on a claimant's property. One part of the claim is brought on behalf of people affected by what's known as the Lug Moratorium, restrictions on building brought in by Herefordshire County Council to protect the River Lug from further pollution. Now that the details of the claims have been filed with the High Court, the defendants have an opportunity to respond, at which point the court will set out a timetable for what happens next. But I'm told that cases like this can take somewhere in the region of 2 to 3 years to actually get to trial. So there's some way to go with this.
And what about the companies being sued? What have they had to say?
So these are Avara Foods, one of the UK's largest poultry producers, and its subsidiary Freemans of Newent, along with Welsh Water. Avara Foods told us that they shared the concerns about the condition of the River Wye, but believed that this legal claim was based on a misunderstanding, as no manure is stored or spread on poultry-only farms that supply them, they said. Where poultry manure is used as fertiliser, it's for other produce in other agricultural sectors, and individual farmers are responsible for how nutrients are used in their own operations, the company said. They added that all of their poultry is produced in Britain to standards that are among the highest in the world, and they employ thousands of people, including 1,500 in the Wye catchment. Welsh Water, then, they said the company had made significant investments in infrastructure in recent years, achieving real improvements in water quality. This included spending £70 million on improving the company's sites along the River Wye over the past 5 years. They're also investing £33 million on improvements along the Usk. They say, unfortunately, the water pollution caused by other sectors during that period has increased significantly, reducing the overall impact on water quality. And they go on to say, we intend to defend this case robustly, adding that the fact that they're a not-for-profit company means that any payments to the claimants would mean there's less available to invest in further improvements for customers and the environment.
BBC Wales Environment correspondent Stefan Messenger there. That's all from us. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Sally Challoner. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.